All my life, I've done everything they said. And now I can't even breathe anymore. I don't think I've ever been so angry in my life. I think one of the problems in our society is that we don't teach our kids and we don't get it taught that your body has a feedback system. And it wants to explain to you that actually I might need something or not need something. Like,
Roos, how did you find carnivore?
well, that is like everybody's story is a long story. But to keep it really short, I'm a self-employed health practitioner. And I had a lady in the practice who had this disease with where the skin gets the white spots, vitiligo, of how you call that?
Vitiligo.
Yeah, that one. And I know I'm a good healer, but her spots were like disappearing really fast. And I found that really intriguing because that could not have been my influence that quick. So I said, this is really interesting. What are you doing? And she says, I'm eating only meat. And stupid, ignorant me said, yeah, but you need to eat fiber. But I didn't know, at the time. But I was intrigued by her progress. So I thought, well, my health journey was already going on for like 45 years. So I was intrigued because if anyone is making progress, I want to know how they do that. I had a friend who had extreme eczema. Like I've never seen someone with that extreme eczema. She would like actually be glued to the radiator, the heater in the house because, her skin was all open. So she was so cold. And she had started a GAPS diet. And so I didn't start off with the carnivore immediately, but it got me intrigued. And then my friend said, I'm doing so good on GAPS. So then I started on the GAPS diet. And the lady who helped me with the GAPS diet actually said to me, if you want your healing to go faster, you should from time to time eat only meat for 1 week. And then I thought, well, if only meat eating is going to progress my healing, then why don't I just eat only meat all the time? But that was actually easier said than done because I had a lot of cravings. And the thing about cravings is they are said to be bad because you fall off the wagon and you're so weak and you get back to the sugar. But I actually think that cravings contain useful information as well. Because maybe the body is missing some kind of ingredient and just is trying to signal to you that you need to eat something. I have a very low blood pressure. I've always had that. And I remember years ago that I was craving potato chips. But yeah, as a smart human being, that's not good to eat. So I wasn't eating that. But my body kept craving that. And eventually I figured out that I had a very, very low blood pressure and I actually couldn't function right. And eating the bag of potato chips, which contained a lot of fat and salt, actually made me feel better. But I think one of the problems in our society is that we don't teach our kids and we don't get it taught that your body has a feedback system. And it wants to explain to you that actually I might need something or not need something, like as in sugar. So if I do something, I want to do it right. So I wanted to stick to the only meat, but my body wasn't ready to do that. And every time I went to YouTube to search information, everybody was like, oh, I feel so much better on carnivore. And I was, feeling really bad. So for me, it was really a journey to get to eating only meat. And especially around my, menstrual cycle, my periods. In the beginning, I couldn't even go to the cycle without eating carbs. Because I have a very regular cycle. I always get, the cycle that starts on the 10th of the month. Or then in February, it gets a bit messed up, of course. And it would go to the 11th and the 12th. And my mood would get worse and worse. And I thought, well, I never had a bad mood in my cycle. What's this? But my body just said, I don't have the energy on red meat yet to go into the cycle. Please eat carbs. But as I was waiting so long, because I didn't understand that I needed carbs to get, through the cycle, then I waited too long, and then my body said, now I'm taking over control, and I would just go to the supermarket whether I wanted or not, and I would eat bunches of chocolate. And then I would get into my cycle, and I was happy, but then I was feeling bad because once I eat sugar, I never stop eating sugar. So yeah, I think we need to teach ourselves and our kids that our body has a very valuable feedback system. But you know, when my sister was born, my mom was in a hospital in Belgium, and she was very well taken care of. And she had a lot of breast milk. And after 10 days, she was released to go to home. And then the breast milk stopped. I don't know why, but it just stopped. So when I was born, a few years later, my mother's physician said to her, oh, you don't need to try the breast milk because if it doesn't work for the first child, it's not going to work for the second. So I was brought up on formula. And a formula is a genius invention, let's be honest. But I think it already messes up the feedback system of the body because you get ingredients that you don't actually need. You see, or that actually off balance, do you say that? Dysregulate your feedback or hormonal system. So, you know, I think it would be wise if we learn how to work with our bodies instead of going against it. So even if I would never work on red meat completely because I can't get through my cycle, it's not bad to eat apple or whatever, as long as I can feel what it is that my body needs. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've been like, I was really, really young when I got ill already. And I'm really sure that was none of my parents' faults. I think I had severe adverse reactions to the childhood vaccine program. So I had lots of ear infections, which meant lots of antibiotics, which meant a lot of, I had these operations where you get tubes in your eardrum. And so I had a lot of antibiotics, a lot of anesthesia. You know, every time my body was recuperating, I would get ill again and I would get antibiotics again. It's a story. I can't even count the amount of times I had antibiotics in my life. And let's state well, I'm very, very grateful that antibiotics exist. Otherwise, I would have been dead, right? So I'm very grateful. But it does things to the body that are, well, not really healthy, I guess. So my story is actually a story of forever being sick, forever being ill, forever getting antibiotics. In my early years, I had ear infection forever. Then it changed into bladder infections forever. And at one time I got to a university hospital and they said, we don't know what to do with you because you are forever getting ill. So we're going to put you on antibiotics for 3 months, which was very effective for the bladder infection. And it was not so effective for my, how you call that, intestinal balance, because then I got really ill. And one thing always leads to another. At one point, I was in a hospital with renal pelvic inflammation. It was really painful and I was really ill. And they administrated me to hospital for 17 days because I was really ill. They didn't really know what to do with me. So they started me on a broad spectrum antibiotics, you know, where they just kill everything because don't know which bacteria it's actually attacking the body. So then they just kill everything. Yeah, but after 17 days of broad spectrum antibiotics, I was, let's just say I was in survival mode. I was still breathing, but that was all. I couldn't even stand up. So luckily my mom and dad, I could go to their home and they took care of me. But then after a few months, the whole problem started again and I was administered to hospital again. And then they found on my ovaries, they found a cyst or a tumor or whatever it was, 7.7 centimeters diameter. So that's rather big. Yeah. And I knew I wanted to become a mom one day. So that really scared me. And then after then I had surgery, of course. And then I came back home and I just couldn't get back on my legs again. I was I was worn out completely. I kept visiting my physician, who got really tired of seeing me without being able to do anything for me. And then he called an acupuncturist and said, "There's this lady. She's really ill. Can you please come and see her?" And she said, "I'll make room for her." And the waiting list was only 6 weeks for urgent patients. But I actually think this acupuncturist saved my life. She was really intrigued that a young lady like me would actually have a cyst or a tumor on the ovaries. And she said, "Are you using birth control?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And she said, "I want you to stop and never start again." And I think that was a very good piece of advice for my body. And then I went to a center for biological healing, or I don't know what. And they checked my diet and said, "Oh, you're drinking sodas. Oh, well, interesting. You might not want to do that." And then slowly my healing started. So I understood that I couldn't drink sodas and that processed food wasn't all the best. But they gave me lots of, supplements. But, well, that didn't really work. But at least I was off to a good start of changing my diet. So I'm forever grateful to that. But then, of course, my body had been so messed up that I wouldn't heal. So I kept getting infections, and then I got a gallbladder infection. And then at that time I didn't know. So you just go back to hospital and they take you open and they remove the gallbladder and close you up again. But then, of course, again, anesthesia, again, and antibiotics, and my body would just crash and say, "Well, this is it. I can't do anymore." I find that mentally very challenging. So you do all the good things, you think you do all the good things, and you still get ill. That for me was really a hit in the face, But it led me to more good things, of course, because then you get, if you don't feel well and nobody's gonna help you get better, then you have to find your own way, which is good. Then, although I was doing better, my body was still in ill shape. And then somehow I developed asthma. Is that how you call that? Where you can't breathe? Yeah. So I was lying in bed upstairs and I couldn't breathe, and my husband was really worried. So we decided to call the hospital, not 911, because I was not going to die, but we called the hospital. And my husband was talking to the nurse, and she said, "Can I talk to your wife?" So he handed me the phone, and I was like, and they said, "Don't go anywhere, we're coming to you." So the doctor came, which was really nice. And he put an oxygen mask on my face and he said, "You have asthma, here are meds, and you will take them for the rest of your life." Oh, I found that really interesting. I said to my husband, "This is really weird. This doctor, thank God he's there, otherwise I would have been dead, let's be well, is giving me, he's like seen me for 5 minutes in my entire life, and he says, 'You have this and you will take this med for the rest of your life.'" I just could not accept that. Cannot be the truth. So after the ventilating on my nose, I actually felt a lot better, so I skipped the whole medicine. But of course, I had weak lungs. So a few, I don't know, sometime later, something disrupted my breathing again. And then this time, I did not call the paramedics or whatever you call that. So I didn't get this on my nose. So the blockage in my lungs would not stop. So for 6 weeks, I was walking around the house. I'm not using medicine. I'm not using medicine. And then after 6 weeks, I called a friend of mine. I said, "Am I being ignorant, or what should I do?" And he said, "You might be in danger. Go visit your physician." So I went to the physician, who gave me, I call that an inhaler. Yeah. But, well, one inhaler led to the next, because that is actually not solving the problem, right? And then to the next, and then to the next. And at the end of the day, well, at the end of a few months, I was using 12 times I had to inhale per day, 6 times the normal stuff, and then 6 times the steroids, because if you use anti-inflammatory too long, then you have to use steroids, because otherwise your body gets in danger, blah, blah, blah. And then at one time, even although I was using 12 inhalers a day, I still ended up in the emergency room because I couldn't breathe. And then the physician in the emergency room gave me prednisone. Does that make sense? Prednisone? Yeah, correct. And then something broke in me. Then I thought, all my life I've done everything they said, and now I can't even breathe anymore. I don't think I've ever been so angry in my life. I went to the internet. I found a lady who gave breathing courses where you could actually learn to breathe decently. I went to that course. I was making noise half of the time of the course because I was coughing so hard. But the breathing exercise actually made my lungs stronger. And after 6 months, after 6 weeks of the breathing exercises, I stopped all the meds. Cold turkey. I thought, I'm strong enough now. I have to stop. I can stop. That's good. And then the lady comes and says, I do carnivore. And then a friend says, I do gaps. So I started with the gaps, which was actually very good. But I was, like, for example, allowed to eat fruits. But after I ate fruit, I could just feel my blood sugar going up. And I would get dizzy. And then I thought, well, this is not working for me. So that's how I ended up being like carnivore and carnivore only. Only in the cycle. I just have to eat some carbs because I'm not strong enough, or apparently my body doesn't get enough energy yet from the red meat to go through the cycle. But this month I'm trying again. But I've smartened up now, so I'm not waiting until my body actually takes me to the supermarket, to the chocolate department. So if my cycle's not coming this month, I will eat some apples or with some cannel. Is that it? Cinnamon. Because cinnamon lowers the blood sugar, right? And I might eat some, drink some apple cider vinegar to make sure that my blood sugar is not going up too much.
When did you actually start eating carnivore?
It must have been 2 years now.
Thank you.
So first did the gaps, and that was actually really good. But on one hand, it was helping me, and on the other hand, the meat was definitely healing me. But she said, don't eat anything. Eat only one ingredient. I agree with that. So, right? So the meat was healing me, but the sugar was actually, the fructose in the fruit was actually getting the counter effect. So I was getting better, but really not better. And then, and this is really why I wanted to do the interview with you today. And that's why I asked God in the name of Jesus to help me and guide me through this interview, although English is not my first language. After the birth of my son 8 years ago, I started having white spots on my genitals. And of course, in the beginning, I just ignored that. But then I learned there's a disease that's called lichen sclerosis, which is actually a autoimmune disease. And if it doesn't get healed, the genitals actually, first they turn white because there's no circulation left. And then the flesh, or whatever you call that, can actually starve off. And then you are actually losing parts of your genitals. And there's women in the world who don't have any genitals at all anymore. I found that debilitating. Is that a good word? I found that, oh, my body's done such hard work trying to recover from everything. Then it's actually making a child was the biggest wonder in the world. The child comes out. I can breastfeed. I mean, my body's done so much. And then this illness comes, which I think is for a woman, that's like seriously a mind F-U-C-K. I was so disappointed. I did everything well. Now I end up with this horrible disease. But the good thing about it is the lower you get, the more motivated you get to really heal. So yeah, that helps me immensely to stay on the carnivore diet. why I wanted to do this interview is because I want the women who hear this to know that even if you have a disease which I call as horrible as lichen sclerosis, there is hope. Because if you stay away from all the processed food, your body actually gets the opportunity to heal, and you want to heal. I mean, the asthma was not fun, but with the inhalers, it was doable, right? But to think that in the future my genitals will no longer be there, that's I don't want to go there. And eating carnivore, first of all, is healing the body, and second of all, for the mind and the emotions, it's giving me a lot of hope because I know I don't have to lose them now, and I can every day help my body heal, right? So all the women that are listening, don't give up. you know, kick the garbage food out and eat decent, and your body will, heal. Yeah, that's why I wanted to be on here to say to the women, hang in. Yeah, there's hope, and keep hope.
Mm.
And if you fall off the wagon in the beginning of the carnivore diet, you're not falling off because you're stupid or weak. Your body is adjusting. You don't know. Yeah. And sometimes now I don't do that anymore. But in the beginning, when I was still eating out, they would put stuff in the meats that actually would get me off balance. But you don't know that, you're trying to do the best there that you can. And what I found really difficult in the all the YouTube stories and all the successful stories, that I find really, really very few people are talking about the mental roller coaster you go through if you start on the carnivore diet. At least for me, it was because my body was missing so much ingredients that it kept, developing cravings for one thing or the other. And yeah,
Oh,
I hear a lot of people who are very, very enthusiastic and say, "Oh, I felt really great. Oh, I feel better straight away." Well, I didn't. It took me years.
after 2 years, how are things going?
I'm 49. I've never been so energetic, so happy, and so fit in my life. It's like,
Mm.
can't believe it. There's a verb in Dutch. I went to Google Translate, but I can't find it in English. But it's, you get to the point where you want the best for yourself. And not from an ego point of view, but from your heart. You want the best for yourself because you want the best for yourself. So when I'm preparing my steak or my ribeye or whatever, and I look on my plate, I just feel very grateful that I can give myself this. I don't need to eat any crap. I can just give myself. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And have you noticed any changes with the white spots?
I should have known you were going to ask that. In 2017, I did a year of personal coaching from the late Bob Proctor. And Bob Proctor explains the law of attraction in a way that he says you resonate, everything you resonate with, you attract, right? So he said if people are ill and they keep focusing on their illness, they are attracting more illness. And he said if you're ill, you should focus on health. And I agree with that. So I try not to, how do you say that? To check the white spots too often, because I want to be involved with my health and not with the illness. What I can tell you is that I used to have aches and pains when I was making love to my husband, and that is all gone. So now I can make love without any, we say that? I don't have to hold back because it's like, it's all healing so well that it doesn't hurt anymore. I don't even have to think about it anymore. So yeah, that's great. So I try to focus on these things. Yeah. And the times I had difficulties either in my carnivore journey or in any time of my life, I always write down what Bob Proctor said. I am so happy and grateful now that. So I write my affirmation that says, I'm so happy and grateful now that my genitals are all healed. And that's why I'm not sure about the white spot, but I know I can make love without any ache. So I'm doing really good.
At the start of the interview, you mentioned you're a self-employed health practitioner.
Yeah.
Could you explain what kind of capacity that is? What are you doing day to day? You just when you say health practitioner, is that what you would say is just a doctor or something else?
All right. I was born, don't ask me why. I was born with the capacity to feel what other people feel. So if I talk to someone who has pain in his knee, I feel it in my knee. My childhood got a bit complicated because of that. I think the word is psychic, but psychic has like a negative vibration to it, but it's actually what it is. Clairvoyant. And in the years of growing up, I discovered if I put my hands on someone, they actually start to feel better. First 28 years of my life, I battled that gift because I didn't find it really amusing. And then after 28 years of battling, I got really angry at God and I said, well, if this gift, what you call a gift, is not going away, then I might as well use it. And since then, I've had a practice and I just have people come in all day and I just put my hands on them and we call that healing. It's gone now, but we had a school for healers in Holland. I went to that school and I got all the diplomas and certifications. So even the health insurance covers my my healing sessions. So that is really awesome. And at the moment I study acupuncture to get even more, more wisdom on how to heal the body without invasive therapies. I'm gonna do my thesis on for the acupuncture. I'm gonna do my thesis on the leaky gut because if we can help that, then I think we can help a lot of people. And the carnivore journey has brought me a lot of valuable information that I actually share with my clients now. If people come in, I say, oh, I have so much wrist pain. I say, well, let's see how much sugar you ate, or let's see how much oxalates you eat. 99.9% of the people who come in here have never heard of the word oxalate. And it can have such an impact on your daily health, you know. And of course, from the government point of view, they push that we eat a lot of vegetables. I'm not too sure, Dave. I'm really not too sure. And it's not that I want to be against government. I don't want to be against anything. But the people I meet who eat a lot of vegetables, well, I don't see them really healthy. So yeah. And I've learned for sure that there's not one law that serves everybody, right? So I don't know if everybody would do good on a carnivore diet. And for me, it's not so much about a carnivore diet. It's more that if people just could actually learn from their body what they need to eat, and if they would only eat food instead of processed crap, sorry for the word, they would already do so much better. You know, in the morning, my son, he's 8, he has 2 eggs for breakfast. He's not hungry the whole day. I mean, he eats, yeah, but I have to make his lunchbox, and they are obliged to eat fruit at 10 o'clock. Well, I actually understand that, because if the kids are eating, we call that breakfast grains, the blood sugar goes up, and yeah, I understand at 10 o'clock they need some fruit, right? Yeah. And then, and then all these kids with hyper intensity, whatever they call that, ADHD, well, I'm sure there's kids who have problems in the brain that I actually have that behavior. But if I could make breakfast for all the kids in our school, I'm sure we would have a lot of less people with ADHD, right? And my son eats chicken, and he's more into chicken than into red meat. And sometimes that worries me because I think maybe you should eat red meat. But then I think organic chicken is already a lot better than anything that comes from the food fabrication. How you call that? You know what I mean?
Your son's like eating the 2 eggs for breakfast and having things like chicken and so forth. How are you eating day to day?
Oh, I start off with ground beef. Um, I eat when I'm hungry, so I don't start at a certain time. Um, I have 2 horses, so normally I take my son to school and then go to the horses and muck out and feed hay. And then when I come back at around 9:30, 10 o'clock, I eat ground beef, but only when I'm hungry, right? If I would get hungry at 7 in the morning, I would eat at 7 in the morning because I think my body is wiser than the clock. And then when I get hungry again, I like to eat picanha. And then in the evening, I like to eat ribeye or some lamb. But usually it's ribeye, picanha, and ground beef. Sometimes, and I never know, and I never understand why, I just get hungry after an hour of eating my ground beef. So then I go back to the kitchen and eat meat again. I don't understand how this works, but I know if my body says I'm hungry, then I should just eat. Uh, I'm happy that okay, when I was like 20, I was 180 pounds, in weight.
Yeah.
I gained some weight because I didn't know how to eat properly. Um, I've lost that over the years by eating well. So I'm lucky that I don't have to think about the amount of calories or the amount of fat because, I'm just perfect the way I am. So, I can understand if you would be on a health journey, but you would also want to lose weight, that it would be a lot more difficult to eat when you're hungry, because then you would still think, but how much food is coming in, how much calories am I getting? I understand that then it would be more difficult to really listen to your body. That is stupid, but I understand that's the way it works. But I have a perfect body, so I just eat when I'm hungry.
And how is your husband eating now? Is he kind of following the same pattern, or is he just eating a regular diet?
Yeah, 100% carnivore. When my husband, I think it's like 10 years ago, um, he went to an old Chinese Qigong master in China. My husband had psoriasis from like the top of his head to his toes.
Mm.
He went to China. I did 17 days of Qigong the whole day. And he wasn't eating any meat, but he was eating only one ingredient, fresh food in China. After 17 days, swear to God, Dave, he came back and there was no psoriasis on his body. So when I started eating carnivore, and he had some spots, of course, because he likes to eat, well, everybody likes to eat nice things. I said, why don't you just jump in? And he said, I'll do that. And he really likes to bike ride. And he's biking on meat and he's going faster than the rest of them. It's like, it's wonderful to see.
Wow. Nice.
He can eat eggs, I can't. But he starts off with 4 eggs in the morning. He has a job where he's in sales, so he's in his car the whole day, and he makes his own from ground beef. He makes some a ground beef bread or whatever you call that, and he cuts off a few pieces and he takes that in his car, and then he eats that during the day. And when he comes home, he eats ribeye with me, and we're just all doing fine, and we're all happy, and we're all energetic. It's really unbelievable. Why were we not taught? This is like, it's amazing. I want
You know,
to eat meat.
you know the thing though. You know the thing. Like we say things like it's amazing, it's unbelievable, it's like magic, right? But like when you stop and think about it, it's it's really not, right? Because it's like, you know, how I don't know, Russian spies or whatever, you know, they'll take some kind of, you know, poison or something, and then, you know, and it's like if they don't take the poison, they don't die. And it's like we're the same. If we don't keep ingesting the poison, we don't get sick, you know? And it feels like it's a magic kind of formula, but in reality it's not. It's just, you know, we stop poisoning ourselves.
But how weird that you would poison yourself uh, with vegetables. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear that the family's all doing really well.
Yeah.
So how does this when you talk to your clients and you say, well, you got a bit of wrist pain, why don't you try this approach to eating? What kind of feedback do you get from them?
Um, I've learned that if I lose the mental connection with the client, I can't help them physically, right? So if I say, you have to eat meat, that's not working. So I start off really, really in the basics. So I make a drawing. I have a whiteboard in my practice, and I make a drawing of the blood sugar going up and down and up and down and up and down. And the first thing I tell them is, let's try to regulate your blood sugars. Because if we start there, then we've already made so much progress. And then I slowly start about the oxalates and, well, try to help them not eat processed food. But I don't know if you did it cold turkey, but for me, going carnivore, full carnivore, has been a real journey. Yeah. And all those things I learned is like stepping stones to being where I am today. And I want this knowledge to put in their head and said, you should do this. It's not working. So, let's just try with regulating the blood sugar. Let's start there. There's this book called Glucose Revolution. I give that to my clients. I just read this. Start here. Let's start easy. And then they have the feeling they have some grip and they can get control over their own bodies. And then I think one of the problems is that we don't value the things that we get for free, and we get our bodies for free. And I think we take it way too much for granted. And as nobody has ever taught us how to take care of our body, well, what do we know? And as long as you're not having any illnesses, then you're doing whatever you do.
Yeah. It's I think you're right. And we kind of treat our bodies like a car that we don't really care about, right? We just drive it and we just, you know, we do the very bare minimum to keep the car running. And when, you know, when it's getting time for an oil change or whatever, we get really irritated because we've got to mess around, you know, we just want the car to start and go.
Yeah.
And eventually it just stops working and we're like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Got to take some medicine, or, you know, now we've got to get it fixed up. And yeah.
But let's be honest, if the inhalers would have worked for me, I wouldn't have changed a thing. Yeah. It's only because it didn't work, I kept getting ill, that I changed something. But Pat Pirelli always says there's no shortcut to heaven. Yeah. Fast and wrong, slow and right beats fast and wrong, and it's true. But we live in a society where we have quick fixes. If I want to order something, I go to Amazon and I want it delivered tomorrow. If I go to another website and it says delivery takes 3 days, I'm going 3 days. No, that's way too long. I mean, yeah. And I was really, really lucky. I read this book. I think it's called, from Lynn McTaggart, it's called What Doctors Don't Tell You. I read that before I got pregnant. It got me on doubt the vaccines and doubt the ultrasounds, right? So I didn't have any ultrasounds in my pregnancy because I wasn't really all too sure that they were safe. I had a home delivery. I didn't have the blood of my son drawn at the third day in Holland after they do this blood draw. They draw blood because they want to check for metabolic diseases. And I thought, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's not mess with the baby, right? And I didn't have any vaccines given to him, and I'm giving him breast milk in the beginning, and then we transfer to organic, meat-based diet. But Dave, my son is never ill. Last week, he had something and he had a little wound from his nose. So I helped him wipe his nose, and he's 8 years old. And I thought, that's the first time in his life that I'm actually wiping his nose. He's 8. He's never had a running nose. Yeah, I'm just all happy. And
It's awesome.
Yeah, I try to help people who come into my practice to be more conscious about what they eat. But I think it's really tough, because if people really doing the best they can and they eat lots of veggies because they think it's good, well, it's really hard to say, well, you're not doing good. Because every newspaper, every journal, everybody screams that you need to eat 500 grams of vegetables a day. Yeah, so you can only hope that by sharing your story that people get inspired, just the way I was inspired.
Roos, if people want to reach out to you, is there a way they can get in contact? Do you have any social media or anything?
My name is in the screen, and I'm on Facebook, and then it's called Inner Feeling, and then it's my name. But I'm the only person in the whole world with this name, so if they type it in, they can. Yeah. But if you want to start your healing journey, I would say start eating things with one ingredient only. Then you're already off to such a good start.
Roos, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you putting all that valuable information into the world so people actually know they have a choice. Because my husband always said, well, everybody has a choice. But if you don't know what you can choose from, it's hard to make a choice.